Good morning. Good morning. I like the days when we start our movies early because that means we get to see 4 in a day rather than just 3. And, you know, when I go to film festivals, sometimes I think I see Brian Tellerico, the managing editor of RogerEbert.com, and I know he's like me. We geek out at film festivals, and I think the most I've seen in one day is 6 movies, like some shorts, and but I have to tell you, they start blurring together. And so if you're doing them to write about them, then you do have to take notes. But if you're doing them just to enjoy them, I was on the jury at Sundance Film Festival last year, and it was such a pleasure to be able to sit, watch a movie, and even though you were going to have to judge it and vote on it later, to just enjoy it and not try to write down every detail, just immerse yourself in it. All the senses are engaged. When I'm in a theater or reading a book, or actually when I'm talking to an interesting person or in an interesting situation, I really like for all my senses to be engaged. And so you're hearing and you're seeing, and you know, if you're not with someone that you're touching, you're just gripping your hands together or doing things, and you know, you notice sometimes you even get their ghostly senses of smell or aroma that you can get, because sometimes when you're watching, certain experiences will trigger a memory, a previous memory of something that makes it seem like you're smelling something. If people are eating, you can taste what they're eating if you're really fully immersed. And that's what really, what I love about going to the movies. I'm laughing as I say this because that's one of the things, the joys of sitting next to Roger in a movie. You could see him doing all of those things and taking in all of those, experiences. And, at sometimes at just the same moment, we would sit, but we always we like to sit a seat apart because you wanted to have your space. But our arms would reach over and we squeeze each other's hand at the same time and just know, wow. So anyway, I don't even know where that's all coming from, but that's just me. This morning, I have to tell you about some experiences that we're going to have today for the first time here at Ebertfest. We have set up a virtual reality experience for you out on the plaza, out here in front of the theater. They're setting it up now. At the end of the movie Cold War, they'll be set up under the tent, and you can go out, and I don't know how many at a time they can take, but you'll be able to put on the virtual reality, the Oculus glasses, so that you can experience. They have different little storytelling experiences. I'm not quite sure which ones they have for you out there today, but you will experience what we talk about in being a person in a different race or age or gender or in a different country. I'm not quite sure the experience. Like I say, they have about 6 to choose from. And so they will be there from the end of Cold War until about 4 o'clock today. So I want you to get a chance to experience the virtual reality. And that's probably why I was thinking so much about sensory and sensual experiences in a movie. And that's the Center for Innovation in Teaching and Learning from the University of Illinois that's providing that experience. I also wanted to mention, I like to support the local communities. Last night, some of the donors, we were hosted for dinner at the Big Grove. So that was very nice. And there are other restaurants and other places locally that you'll see. That's why your program booklet is so important to keep with you, because it has different sponsors, and the Hendrick House and our good friend Betsy Hendrick, and so many others, Surface 51, who does our, that beautiful website that we have now. And in the tent outside, we have someone who's been coming to the festival as our friend Bertha with Charities Catering. Oh yeah, charity, you know, when you get your barbecue and other sandwiches and things, make sure you visit the tent. Not only Charities, there are other vendors out there too, but it's good to support I like doing things for the economy when we're here and doing things for people who, that we just like them, all right? This morning, the other thing I like doing is supporting people who become part of the family in other ways. We have someone who started coming to this festival, I think maybe starting in maybe 2012, I believe. Or it could have even been earlier, because I know he was in high school then when he first started coming, and he came with his dad. And his dad still comes to the festival. He does. He moved out to LA, he moved to San Francisco. He grew up and became not only a film critic, but a filmmaker. He does podcasts. Let me read a little bit more about him. Sam Fragoso is an author and director. He hosts a weekly podcast called Talk Easy, dedicated to intimate interviews with people from all walks of life. His short film, Sebastian, is about a Mexican agricultural laborer who sends letters back and forth with his son. Matt Zolerseis of RogerEbert.com praised it for being a familiar story to millions of people, yet one that rarely gets shared in commercial cinema. He said that in watching and listening to it, we immediately sense parallels to modern-day news stories, even though that's not the film's apparent purpose. Sam is able to create stories that seem like they would have existed without his help. And it was actually my daughter, Sonia Evans, who's probably here somewhere. I'm fortunate to be able to work. I work with my daughter as a producer, and she works with us, and she keeps an eye out for talent. And she spotted something by Sam Fragoso, and she brought it to me, and I took it to Roger. And so Sam was writing at that time. He actually employed film critics who were, fully grown workaday film critics. They didn't know he was in high school. When on the internet, you could be anything and anybody, so that's one thing about democracy. So but we found that was not a fluke, because what I've since learned about Sam, who's also become a friend, he is so motivated. He's smart, he has good instincts for things, and I'm just happy to be able to welcome him as a filmmaker to Ebertfest. After he talks about his film, for Sebastian, I just want to let you know we're going to go into talking about Cold War after that. But first, let's help me welcome Sam Fragoso.
I gotta lift this up. Hello, everyone. Good morning, and thank you so much for being here. This is the first time a movie of mine has played a festival. I made 2 other ones, but they were horrible. They got rejected at every festival you can imagine. No one wrote anything nice back, and this is the first one I think is fit to show people other than my roommates back in Los Angeles. Chaz has been telling this story about how I've been coming to the festival since I was 16 or 17. I want to give the other half of the story for the first time, which is it's 2012. It's the last day of the festival. It's a musical film. I don't remember the title of the film. I should have done that research. And my dad says to me, look, I'm really sorry, Sam, but we can't leave this theater until you go up to Roger and talk to him, because that was the reason I came. I wanted to meet him. And I'm pacing up and down the aisles, and if you saw me, you probably thought I had to take a pee. But I was just nervous. And so I go up to him and I babble on like anyone does when they meet someone that means something to them. And at the end of it, I do one final gesture, and I give him my very poorly designed business card that had my film review website on it. And I leave. I'm glad I did it, but I'm also angry with my father for making me do that, because it was a nerve-wracking experience, much like talking in front of you. 2 months pass. I'm still very much in high school, painfully in high school. High school's a hard time, you know, really. I don't want to get into it, but it's a real pain in the ass. And I'm sorry for cursing, Chaz. Roger writes me, and I'm pulling up the email that he wrote. And he said, "Hey, Sam, I read some of your reviews. It's hard to read this for me. You're good. You sound like the real thing. You have a future as a writer, whether a film critic or not. A word of advice, don't tell everyone your age. On the internet, who knows? See you at Ebertfest." And so here we are. It's 7 years later. And I was thinking about what to say up here, and then Michael Barker came up and said the most eloquent thing you possibly could say, as he usually does. And he said, "Roger empowered us to do things we didn't know we could do." And that is this film, Sebastian. It's something I didn't think I could do, and it's something I made happen with about 8 other people. No film that's ever played here has probably had a smaller budget and a smaller crew. And it is about my grandfather, who immigrated to America in 1948. It's only a fraction of his story, but it's his, and it's also my father's story, and it's also my story. And I very literally would not be here in front of you right now if it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for Sebastian. So the movie's only 3 minutes long, and I don't know if I could talk more than 3 minutes because that feels rude. So Michael Phillips told me to say that. So thank you, Chaz. Thank you, Brian Tellerico and Matt Seitz, for supporting the film on the site. Thank you to Sonia. I did not know that happened, that she told Chaz about the movie. And thank you to my dad, who has supported me, and my mother, and also my dad for helping do some of the translation in this film, because my Spanish is horrible. And thank you to Roger. This could not have happened without him. And if Chaz will have me back, I promise I will return to Ebertfest with a movie longer than 3 minutes. You just got to give me a couple years. For now, here is Sebastian. I really hope you like it, and thank you all for coming.